Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegrand, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' recent offseason signings of Josh Bell and some interesting trades from around the MLB. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins, remarkably, Dan, surprisingly, make an offseason acquisition with the name of somebody we've heard of, Dan. Can you believe this? It's like Christmas morning.
No, but the note has been made that Josh Bell has only played for bad baseball teams. Like, he's making the tour of, this is not a signing to be super excited about that they signed Josh Bell. Let's be honest.
Dan, I think if you're not going to get excited about signing Josh Bell, I don't know what you're going to get excited about this offseason.
Well, Pete Alonso? That would be exciting. Like a splash, like a Quinn Hughes-esque splash. That's what I'm looking for, David. I don't think we're going to get that, though. And by the way, we must say, thank goodness for the Wild being competitive right now with the Vikings kind of out of it. What a time to be a Minnesota sports fan, David.
I'm just saying, Dan, the Wild ownership group is going to come up a little bit later.
I know.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, welcome. Returning listeners, as always, thank you for your support. Our typical format, we record an episode after every Twin series during the season. Off season, it's a little bit more sporadic with other obligations we have. Dan and I are just normal people out in the world here. But so we do have one big announcement here before we jump into things, folks. So Dan and I have toyed with the idea of a second podcast for a long time.
Why have we done this, David? We have jobs, we have families, we have a second podcast now. What are we doing?
We have a second podcast, Dan Thompson. And so, listeners, here's the deal. The only way to access this podcast is via our Patreon. And so there's two ways you can get it. You can buy each of these episodes individually. I gotta be honest, it's a little bit crazy. It's like $4.50 to buy the episode. It's I didn't get to set that price. That's just how Patreon does it in the Apple Store or whatnot. But if you subscribe to our show for $1 a month support, you will get this content for only that $1 a month. So that's $12 a year.
$12 a year. That's not bad, David.
That's nothing, folks. And honestly, it would mean a great deal to us. We're just looking for a way that you can support the show and get a little bit of additional content. But we've always said, and we will always keep Twins content in front of a paywall. There's nothing behind a paywall that's going to be Twins related. The only thing behind a paywall is going to be this new show. For the record, it's called Picture of Record.
I like that.
It's Dan and I doing movie reviews. And the first one, if you're a longtime listener of the show, Dan and I have a lot of disagreements about movies, but our primary disagreement centers upon La La Land. And so if you want to hear us get into the nitty gritty, I think it's like 50 minutes, Dan, that we talked about La La Land.
It was a remarkable amount of time. Yes, and it's a raw cut too. We just posted it as it is. So
with video, folks.
With
get video also. Yes. So if you're interested, please follow the link in the description. Subscribe onto Patreon. Again, we'd love the extra support. It would also open up some other possibilities for this show. So again, thanks so much for the quick ad read here for ourselves, I guess.
Yeah,
Dan,
and we're open for one episode a month. I don't know if you said that, but one episode about the film for a month. I think the next one is going to be more baseball related.
Yes.
But we'll kind of bounce around. And so if there's any shows that people want us to talk about for some reason, then they can go ahead and send that in too. But I will say one teaser about it, David. I really like our film grading system that we came up with. There's a nice crossover bit. So you like it. Come on. You liked the system during our long... We had a long conversation about that. That was in itself an episode. Anyway, so what we're going to do today, we're going to look around the league a little bit. There's been some signings. One of the things that I think we have is kind of I'm going to call it a virtue or the advantage of kind of being a little bit late to the conversation, because I think in some sense we're not trying to be immediate here, but we're trying to still be reflective about kind of the significance of this. I think it's also interesting that we're heading into an interesting couple of seasons here, and even the off seasons, with the potential of a lockout looming. And so I think some of these signings just kind of feel a little bit different, kind of with that backdrop. We're hopeful, I think, about maybe some kind of some changes. Anyway, that's for another show. But I think we'll start with one of the big signings here. Kyle Schwarber signed a 5-year, $150 million deal to stay with the Phillies. Something very nice and round about that number, right? 5 years, yes. $30 million a year, and he gets it all.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal that he gets to stay with the Phillies. I think a lot of people thought that he was going to wander, but it's nice to see a guy stay with the team that he's had a lot of success with, and obviously they have yet to get over the hump, and it's kind of cool that he's going to be there to hopefully see them win a World Series. Hopefully it's probably a stretch. I don't really care if the Phillies win a World Series or not, but I always like it when guys stay with the team that he's sort of grown close to.
It's nice, too, when you have, like the 5th or 6th highest payroll in the majors to be able to
always
afford
helps.
Such things. Edwin Diaz, also the relief pitcher, signed with the Dodgers for a 3-year, $69 million deal. Goodness knows the Dodgers need relief pitching. When I went to Dodger Stadium over the summer, man, the fans around us were just all about ragging on the bullpen. They were bad last year, and they have had a good bullpen in years past. But that's a big signing. The one, though, David, that I think we really need to talk about is the nearest and dearest to your heart. I'm going to let you talk about Pete Alonso's deal.
Yeah, so this is crazy. First of all, if you're a Mets fan, this was a tough week. Yes. Let me tell you. So you lose Edwin Diaz, and then you lose Pete Alonso to the Orioles, which was a bit surprising to me. I don't know if he has connections to Baltimore or what exactly that is, other than maybe the 5-year, $155 million he got. That's a pretty good connection to Baltimore. But I do think the Mets losing him, first of all, you have to think they look back last season, and when they gave him this deal where it's like with the opt-outs, you have to think they wish they would have locked him up last year when they sort of had sole bargaining rights with him. But now, Dan, I don't know. If you're a Mets fan, can you be mad at ownership? Do you know what I mean? Like they spend all of this money, but now you've lost 2 big pieces of your team that make your team so good. Can you be mad?
I don't know, but if I'm Juan Soto, I'm mad, right? Because you went there thinking that you're going to be the centerpiece of this big team, and then they took all the pieces away from you. So it was a little weird. By the way, I was Googling Pete Alonso's wife is not, I don't think she's from Baltimore. That's the thing that I feel like I should be paying more attention to now in these free agent signings, is where is the family from? Because I think if we learned anything from the Kirk Cousins saga, it's that family matters, I believe. Kirk Cousins' family, or his wife's family is right. I believe. Somebody can correct me if I'm pretty sure that's right.
Well, I always like the updates I get from my sister. She follows the Twins relatively closely, but she follows the wives and girlfriends of the players far more closely. So I get updates on pregnancies and engagements and stuff about the Twins players, which is always a unique aspect that we don't really pay that much attention to. But I do want to say I found this funny. ESPN came out with their the teams that the fans are the most, I forget what the word is that they use. They're basically the people they're least interested in, or they're oh my goodness, I hate this. They're what was it, Dan? It's the ESPN fans who are most upset, basically.
I'm sure it's vacuous if it's coming from ESPN. There's no content that's coming out of ESPN that's any good.
But anyway, the Mets are number 2, Dan, only trailing behind our beloved Minnesota Twins.
No, really?
Yes.
That's not what I expected you to say there. Couple other signings. Robert Suarez, the pitcher, signs with Atlanta on a 3-year, $45 million deal. Nice round numbers here. Well, they're odd numbers, but they're round. They can be round and odd numbers, right, David? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not a math teacher, Dan, but I think so.
And then just a few more familiar faces to Twins fans here. Jorge Polanco, whose career has come and gone many times here, signed a 2-year deal, filling that vacuum in New York at the old Shea Stadium, Citi Field now, with a 2-year, $40 million deal with the Mets. What an interesting career. I mean, he had a great year for the Mariners last year after having a very bad year for the Mariners the year before.
I do think that he probably is playing better than he ever did with the Twins now, and obviously getting paid $20 million a season speaks to that. But would you have guessed, Dan, when he left the Twins, that he would be as hot of commodity as he was this offseason?
No, and yet I think it's a nice validation for veteranness in the sport, right? It can think about all the pitchers he's seen now. Think about as long as he can still do it physically, I think he's at an advantage because of all of that experience now too. But yeah, talk about all over the country now. Minnesota, Seattle, now he's out in New York. I wish him all the best, obviously, especially in the National League.
Yeah, I think we always will have a soft spot here for Jorge, certainly. Now, another Minnesota name, Dan, and this was probably a deal we wouldn't have seen coming. Caleb Thielbar signs a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with the Cubs. Pretty impressive
Sorry, I had to get the loon sounder in there for. Yeah, that's a lot of money for Caleb Thielbar. But again, if you can throw a baseball with your left hand and do it really well, one of the Rogers brothers, maybe it was the right-handed Rogers. I can't quite remember which one of those two. He got a pretty big deal as well. I still don't understand how, and given another opportunity, no Major League Baseball team went and signed both of the Rogers brothers. Why would you not do that, David?
It'd be fun, Dan. Bash Brothers, you could do the whole, Mighty Ducks thing with the Bash Brothers. There's so many marketing opportunities there, Dan.
Well, that's
and the
thing.
Twins, for crying out loud. If you don't have both brothers, I mean, we're the team that's built for that, Dan.
Exactly. Think of the options. Well, now it's not Rocco anymore, but Derek Shelton could have had here, just interchangeably warming up those Rogers brothers there. As far as looking around the league a little bit more here, so then we have to look internationally, actually. So Munetaka Murakami, who I believe he's hit wasn't he the leader in his league in home runs there? 2-year, $34 million deal with, of course, everybody's least likely pick here, the Chicago White Sox. Should the Twins be worried here about this? Or is this another whomever the Twins signed a couple times who came over? What do you think?
Young-Ho Park and Nishioka.
Nishioka, that was the shortstop. The second coming of Nomar Garcia Parra or something like that.
But no, I don't think they should be worried. It is confusing, though. There were a couple of articles I didn't get a chance to read about why he signed with the White Sox, but I have to imagine other teams would have offered more money, but it is sort of an unknown commodity, and I don't think hitting typically translates from Japan as well as pitching does. And so I think that may have played a part in it, that he's a little bit of an unknown commodity until his first game against MLB pitchers, Dan.
I mean, you know what position he plays, David? First base. David, he plays first base.
I think he plays third base, Dan.
Well, it says they see him fitting at first base, according to the headlines.
If you can play third base, you can play first base. I suppose that's reasonable, Dan.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Oh, I tell you, hard to play baseball. The Twins could have signed him, right? They have a spot at first base, but they gave it to Josh Bell. So
we'll get to it, Dan. Another first baseman actually off the market through trade. The Red Sox traded 3 right-handed pitchers to the Cardinals for first baseman Wilson Contreras. So I don't know if anybody saw that coming, but the Red Sox are a very confusing organization to me right now. I don't know exactly what Craig Breslow is doing there, but he's making some moves, Dan.
Again, though, when you have money to spend and you're an organization that has the backing of the fans and the owners and all that, this is the kind of stuff that you can do. I guess you can freewheel a little bit, which is a good thing. You know,
Dan, when I go to the grocery store without my wife, freewheeling is the best way to describe it. Pre-made muffins, you name it, man. It's going in the cart. You better hope I don't have my kids with me, or we're going home with 12 boxes of cereal. But when you're having all of your family and friends over for these holiday gatherings and you need to get those groceries, head to Cub Foods. It's your one-stop shop for all of your grocery needs with everyday fresh products and a wide selection. You'll be in great shape to host the next holiday gathering. Dan, you can grab your fresh produce, deli meats, party trays, and bakery all in one stop. With over 100 locations in Minnesota, check out your local Cub on your next shopping trip.
So you have another note here, David, about the minors. And we talk about the minor leagues occasionally here. This is from The Athletic, how Major League Baseball is going to regulate the use of data and tech in the minors to basically level the playing field. And basically, kind of the gist of this, some teams are actually going to have technology taken away from them in the interest of parity. I am all for parity, I suppose, here. We're talking about things like, the cameras that give you spin rates and all these sorts of things that are quite honestly, minor league baseball has been such a wild west for so many years. And the big move that Major League Baseball made recently in the last couple of years was to consolidate the minor leagues. And so you could have basically there's fewer teams, but it's streamlined in kind of the path to the majors. So I see this as part of that, but do you have an issue with kind of the forced downsizing?
It's always weird to me when you're taking away things to make it equal as opposed to giving to other teams.
Right.
So you would think there should be some way to give every team the opportunity to get these things through some sort of cost sharing or bulk purchasing of this cool fancy equipment that tracks pitches and launch angles and all that. But yeah, so it's a little bit weird that the way they decided to go about this is, hey, we're just going to remove it from all the teams that have a lot of money. It feels a little weird, especially in a league without a salary cap, right? It's okay, we don't have a salary cap. And also now we're going to put a salary cap on the minors use of technology. It's such a small percentage. I do wonder how much of this is really impacting guys' development at AAA. Apparently enough for them to take note, Dan.
I've sat next to some guys in the press box here in Spokane who do this sort of thing for the organizations. First of all, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like dude bros. I mean, it's like guys who grew up maybe playing the sport a little bit, but like I was basically sitting with a guy in his early 20s at the front row at Target Field. I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. Like it's the technology does most of the work here. Why not just buy the technology for everybody and just like upgrade? Or do you like compensate the teams that they're maybe going to downsize the tech? Like this is it's a weird way to step in. I guess I could see teams who already spent the money complaining that the majors were going to spend the money for. Like this is a classic bureaucratic argument. I feel like in some ways that baseball seems to be so anti-bureaucratic in the sense that it's like, well, whatever you want to spend, you can spend it. So it just feels off-brand unless it's part of a larger movement to take more from teams, if that makes like this feels like a revenue sharing kind of move that feels 2 years early from what Major League Baseball is trying to do in the majors anyway.
You do wonder how much money are we talking about? Like if we're talking about 10 grand for each team, like, I'm sorry, email Steve Cohen and ask him just to send that over. Right. Like, I mean, I don't think he would need to like
even
check with his accountants.
Could maybe be talked into chipping in a couple $100 here or something like that.
But truly, like, how much money are we actually talking about? Because how much would it have to be for us to care that like some teams have this and some teams don't? And like at some point, is it not some teams just choose not to have it?
Right.
Like, I mean, but
like
truly, if we're talking under $1 million. This is ridiculous. Like, this should not even be a talking point. It should be, if the team isn't willing to spend $1 million to be up to speed with the other teams in AAA that are developing your future MLB players, that's on the team at that point, honestly.
Yeah, I would think so too. So we'll see. I'm sure the Twins would opt out if they could. The Twins are probably a team that benefits from this, right? Oh, great. All right. You're going to lower the bar for the competition? That's fantastic. More for us. Like, this is much better.
Finally, people are going to come around and see it our way. Why would you spend money to make your team better? Okay. Let's get into our more specific Twins news here, Dan. So first of all, the big news, Twins received the 3rd overall pick for the 2026 MLB draft. The White Sox land number 1, which I mean, the Twins were sort of slated to potentially have number 1. And so the way that they've sort of talked about this is the Twins dropped a spot because they thought number 2 was most likely. Doesn't seem that bad. And again, who knows, right? These are draft picks. Like, there is more of a sure thing in like the top 5 of the draft. But draft picks are draft picks, Dan. You never know what happens until the guys get to the major league level.
No, I mean, Wally Jenkins, I think, was a number 5, but the Twins, you know, they had obviously Byron Buxton, and then they also had another guy named Carlos Correa, who I believe played for them.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Who was a number 1 or number 2 pick. So we'll see. Hopefully it should be a sure thing, as much as a sure thing is in baseball at the 3rd pick, as much as that 1st pick, I would hope.
You'd think so. We'll have to see. But I think the biggest news, Dan, that we're a little bit late to the party here, but Ken Rosenthal comes out with this tweet, and it sort of shook the Twins Twitterverse, right? He says the Twins are not trading their star players and are going to instead look to add pieces around them to increase their competitiveness for 2026. Now, this was very surprising because the last episodes leading up to this one, Dan, I think we all really thought the most likely outcome is Joe's going to go, Pablo's going to go, and Byron's going to go. And the team is just going to work with whatever pieces they have. They're going to keep the payroll as low as possible, and they're going to hope that they're going to be good in 3 years from now. And so for them to say, no, we're not going to do that, what was your first thought, Dan? I guess that's my question. What was your gut reaction to that news?
That Ken Rosenthal has been duped, I think, by someone, you know, like somebody has lied. Multiple people have lied to Ken Rosenthal in this great... You know, it's like The Game, you know, with Michael Douglas, where everybody's kind of conspiring. Anyway, that's what it felt like a little bit. We'll see. I think now maybe just the can has been kicked to July, and then they'll see what they can do. Because I do think from a strategic standpoint, the trade value for those guys, assuming no injuries on them, is still going to be there mid-season, I would hope, right? But if the trade value is still there mid-season, then don't you think the Twins could be competitive? So Josh Bell doesn't feel like enough here. But I was tooting the horn and riding that train. The young guys need their chance. And so I guess maybe this is, I can eat my cake or eat my pie or whatever the metaphor is, you know, it come July.
All girls are like onions.
Oh, thank you. That's the charitable sounder there.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
I was shocked, first of all, and then my mind started to work, Dan, in overtime to try and figure out a way that the Twins could add enough pieces with a small amount of money to make this team actually competitive. Because the only way this makes sense to keep these three guys who are arguably in their prime right now, even Buxton probably even though he's coming off his best season, he's still getting older.
It might have
folks.
been his best season. I mean, we may have just been done with that. Yeah,
exactly. So my question is, if you're going to really believe that these three guys are the core that's going to make your team competitive, you need to be able to add pieces around them to do it now. This isn't a wait 3 years with these guys and like sign Joe and sign Pablo to extensions. That's not what's going to happen here. Their prime is now. Their window to win is now with those three guys, not with the team as a whole, obviously. So my question is, what else are you going to do? You added Josh Bell. Great. So you have an answer at first base, kind of. But so my question is, you still haven't done anything for the bullpen. Gleeman pointed out in an article that he wrote that basically he had like 12 options for the Twins to sign for relief pitchers that weren't crazy money. And like 10 of them have signed elsewhere already, Dan. So you have to do something else here, folks. You can't just sit here, sign Josh Bell, and think that that's going to be enough to make this team competitive, knowing that, again, these guys are in their prime for this season and maybe next, and then that's it.
I think that's the issue. Is I would actually rather have them spend the money on relief pitchers at this point, and then maybe again we played the sounder for first base. You can find guys to play first base that I just think are a little bit, they're comparable to Josh Bell. Now we'll see. Maybe Josh Bell has a resurgence here. My hope is that, but we're going to talk more about this as the offseason goes, I suppose. Another signing here is Rocco Baldelli has signed on with the Dodgers as a special assistant to the GM. What a job for Rocco. He gets to be in sunny Southern California. He gets to go to that beautiful ballpark every day now as much as he wants to. His Twins can go play on the beach whenever.
Yeah.
Like, isn't this kind of the perfect scenario for Rocco for a year, and then he can come back and manage next year?
Yeah, I think this worked out really well for him. I think he'll land a job next season, assuming that there is a next season, right? Like, that's always sort of in the background here. We have to remember that there's likely going to be a lockout next season. But I do wonder, how many options did Rocco have? Because this seems like a job that he's not actually doing anything. I wonder if he had the option to actually go do something somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, special assistant to the GM. Okay, what, you show up in the boardroom and you sit in a chair for a little bit and listen to meetings or whatnot? I wonder if he was offered a bullpen job or a field coach job somewhere else. And he's like, you know what? Also, I want to know how much the Dodgers have to pay him. Like, they're like, we're going to give you a salary of $1. And Rocco's like, well, if it means I get a ring, I guess I'll take that because the Twins have to pay me the remainder of whatever they owe me. So I don't know exactly how that all works monetarily, but I do wonder if he's going to be a little bit bummed if he's less in on the action, being in a very business office style role here.
Yeah, it feels kind of like almost like a sabbatical year in baseball. You know, like a year where after I think he was the manager. It was 7 years, I think, that he was with the Twins. So it feels very sabbatical like, right? To have a year now to learn, to be able to kind of reflect. I really hope that this is a great experience for him from that perspective, because he gets to see what at least the best organization, the baseball, at least money can buy in baseball right now. I mean, aside from he's been with the Rays, he's been with the Twins, now he's been with the Dodgers. So he's going to have, I would argue, two of those organizations, David, are among the best in baseball.
Do you think he's going to like the on-site Starbucks, like when he walks in?
Yeah, I think he's going to like a lot of things. So I think this is good for him. I really do wish the best for him. I hope he comes back strong after that, and it will be fun. I believe it's the Dodgers' turn to come to Target Field this year. So that'll be really, I imagine, a very surreal thing to come back and be there.
A couple of just housekeeping notes that I thought was interesting. So Alan Roden changed to number 18, Cody Clemens changed to number 2, and Lee to number 22. I don't know. I assume there's reasons for that. Like, guys actually wanted those numbers.
Marketing reasons, David. Because now they got to make Brooks Lee t-shirts, don't they? And maybe even Cody Clemens, right?
Dan, I think I've sold more t-shirts with my name on it than have been purchased.
No, but don't you look at the Twin store occasionally thinking, when are they going to release the new, kid t-shirts? Because that's kind of what I buy for my children now. No. And it's been like Trevor Larnach, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa. They're still trying to liquidate the supply for him for years. But like, I would buy a Brooks Lee shirt for my kids now, and now I know that he's going to wear number 22.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, I tend to buy things that aren't player branded. I buy generic Twins items because I don't want to be bound, unless it's like a guy who like Buxton jersey makes some sense at this point. But the thing is, I have a buddy who bought a Correa jersey, and I feel kind of bad for him now because he's like, well, he signed such a long deal, he's going to be here forever. Well, Sorry about that.
Well, it makes me think too. I was just trying to wash it because I have a ketchup stain on it. I think I was with you probably when I got the ketchup stain. I have a Minnesota Wild jersey, or one of those sweaters, and it's nameless, but I think it's like from the original. I think it's like now it's vintage 25 year, right?
There you go.
That they've been wearing this year too, but. I'm with you. I normally like the nameless ones, but I think for my kids, if I'm paying $25 for a t-shirt, like it's a little less than the, $200 you can spend on a jersey, which I haven't done in years either, right? For all the reasons you said, right?
Exactly. The Twins did release our version of Aaron Judge. Carson McCusker will instead pursue opportunities in Asia, Dan, which, let me tell you, as a man who's lived in Asia for a time, I stood out because of my width. I'm guessing he will stand out due to his height, Dan Thompson.
6'7", right? There's the joke, by the way. I don't know if your kids are saying it.
6'7", yeah, I get it. 10, 11. Okay.
Oh, my gosh. I'm trying to make
at church,
14,
the little
15.
kids run around in packs just screaming 6'7", and it's like, what are we doing?
Everywhere. See, now now we've time-stamped this episode, David, into this moment in time.
I would argue all the MLB news we talked about has done that also, Dan, but I suppose in the grand scheme of things, people who are listening to this in 2050, you'll know this is really when 6'7" was big with the teenies.
And then just a couple of minutes, Twins acquired Miguel Caraballo from San Francisco for cash considerations for the just acquired Daniel Susac in the Rule 5 draft. All of this was very funny to me. Like,
yes.
Are these guys that do we need to know their names? Do we need to get their names on the back of some kid t-shirts anytime soon?
I don't really know, Dan, to be honest. I keep looking at the roster and I'm like, okay, hang on. Is he actually going to matter? I mean, he's on the 40 man and he's a catcher, so there's a good chance he'll matter this season.
That's true. Yeah,
I mean, Alan Jackson, as much stock as we want to put.
It's not Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson is the country singer, David. You got to get this right.
Way down yonder in the damn hand.
Yeah, that's good.
Duluth, that's in North Dakota.
What is this guy's name? It's not Alan Jackson.
It's a different A name. I think it's Alex Jackson. I think Alex Jackson, catcher. Yeah, Alex
settled
Jackson.
for a burger and a grape snow cone. That's the Twins. That's the Twins' rationale for all how they could purchase off-season acquisitions is settled for a burger and a grape snow cone.
And then the other one we've talked about this, but I don't think we said the value, but Josh Bell signed a 1-year deal with a mutual option for 2027, $7 million. Is that the option or is that the base deal?
No, that's the base deal, but like mutual options are always pretend because they're never going to both agree to it. Because either he has a terrible season and the Twins don't want to re-sign him, or he has a really good season and he wants more money. So mutual options are just like, yeah, we're going to pay the buyout. Sure. What's it matter?
Then the bigger news is the minority partners come to light. The fictional ones that we never thought really exist actually, and this is not all bad. So I'll just read them off, and then we'll talk about it. So George G. Hicks, who's a Minnesota native, a co-founder of Vardy Partners, a lifelong Twins fan, is part of that. Craig Leopold, the Minnesota Wild majority owner, is part of this. And then the Glick Family Investments, they are New York-based private equity. That's the group. And you can read a lot more about this. The Athletic has reported on this really well. But basically, this is, I think, the path towards solvency for the Twins to pay off some debts and maybe move forward here. So that's part of it. And then the other part, of course, is that Tom Pohlad takes over for Joe Pohlad. You pick a starting point, David, and then we'll pick up the pieces.
Oof. I honestly don't know exactly where to start with this. So the limited partners, they came in, it sounds like they wiped out almost all of the Twins' $400 million debt. And that's why they have a little bit more money to put into payroll. So that's exciting. That's great. It still sounds like it's not an abundance of money that they're going to put into the payroll, but they maybe have like $30 million to play with. Great from that perspective. The more interesting piece, obviously, like you mentioned, Dan, is Tom taking over from Joe. And Dan, did you watch the show Billions? Did you watch that show?
I didn't watch the show Billions.
Okay. So the whole bit of Billions is there's this dad billionaire owner of this company, and he has these children, and they're all sort of vying for position within the company and who's going to take it over
like
when dad
Succession
dies.
or something like that?
Oh, yeah, what'd I say? Billions? Not that
Billions.
one. Billions
Yeah.
is a different show. Both of these shows are highly overrated in my opinion, but that's for the other podcast, Dan. Another day, another time.
Yeah.
But so anyway, yeah, Succession. Did you watch Succession? I guess I should
No,
ask.
I didn't. No, because he sounded like terrible people on that show. I didn't want to watch a show about terrible people.
That's part of why I didn't really love Succession, is because there's nobody to root for because everybody is terrible in that show. I really don't like shows.
Sounds like the Pohlad family, I suppose. A little
That's what I'm saying, Dan. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's a very long illustration to get where I'm going here, Dan.
Ogres are like onions. End of story.
The Pohlads are basically the Succession show. But what's happened here is that Joe Pohlad did such a terrible job. He couldn't handle interviews at all. He stepped on his words continually, said really dumb stuff that was bound to upset the fan base. And so the Pohlads are like, you know what, Joe? You're done. We're going to go with Tom. And if you remember, it was super funny because at the end of the season, there were 2 articles that published. One that talked about like what Joe was talking about, and then one like had Tom talking about the actual business side of things. And the article about Joe Pohlad was like about how he really likes Death Cab for Cutie and how he centers himself with meditation. It was like, the most confusing article at the worst possible time as far as Twins fandom is concerned to do a puff piece on Joe Pohlad. And so this sounds, Dan, I bet this was ugly, dude. Can you imagine in the room where it happened, Dan? Can you imagine being in the room where it happened, where they told Joe Pohlad, dude, you're terrible at this. We're going to go with Tom.
Well, okay, because at the time we were like, who's Tom? Where is this Tom Pohlad coming from? And it turns out he's the name we should have been paying attention to the whole time. He's the new one. And you could read about it now. Like this has caused tension between Tom and Joe because they really did. It wasn't like Joe stepping aside gracefully.
No.
It was like very publicly they're saying Joe didn't like this decision, but we had to make this choice, which I think shows the power of the people to be upset with this team, how much damage Joe Pohlad did to the family's image in the public.
Yes.
Was obviously heard. You know, like we thought that they were tone deaf and they weren't listening to the fans. I think they actually were listening. This is their answer. Is to say, Joe, you can't. Now, does that actually change the heart of the Pohlads towards the Twins team? I think is another deal.
Well, okay, so I want to read here. There's this letter that Tom sent out to Twins season ticket holders, and I'm guessing if you've been to a Twins game and they have your email, they probably sent it to you also. And so basically, this is what he wrote. And I thought this was the most honest I've heard somebody from the Twins organization in quite some time. I'm going to skip all the fluff about how you guys are the heartbeat of the team and everything here. But so this is what he said. He goes, you deserve clarity, consistency, and accountability, especially when expectations are not met. But this I like. We recognize we need to earn back your trust, and we intend to do so through our actions and our decisions moving forward. So then he says, hey, I'm going to take over from Joe and try and shape our team to be winning. Then he talks about the trade deadline. And he said, we made those moves because we didn't feel that this team, as constructed, could win the World Series. And I don't know that any of us truly would disagree with that, right? The question wasn't necessarily that we're mad because you made moves at the deadline. The question was you got rid of players who could still be helpful to this team, especially now knowing that you're going to hang on to these pieces that are considered our stars, right? And so he's still trying to figure out his way through that here. But what I like about this here is that he at least recognizes that fans are upset. And Joe Pohlad, I don't think, would ever do that. So he understands that we're upset. But what I'd like to see, Dan, is for them to make some moves to earn back this trust that they say they're trying to earn back. Like, you can say whatever you want, but until you start putting some money where your mouth is, these are literally just words and you're just another Pohlad. And so to really separate yourself as a Pohlad, I think Joe did pretty good in his opening, 2 months. Right, where he's talking about what they're going to do. And then when they brought in Carlos Correa, that was a huge deal, obviously. But now, Dan, that honeymoon period ended so quickly because he did so many things incorrectly after the fact. Tom Pohlad, he's not no leash. Joe had a little bit of a leash because we were like, oh, great. Like a new voice coming in and a young guy who probably grew up really rooting for this team. Maybe he really does want to see this team succeed. I don't know. I'm not going to put my heart into Tom Pohlad like I did for Joe Pohlad initially because he broke it so easily, Dan.
Well, you mentioned putting money where your mouth is. David, Duke Cannon makes high-quality grooming products for hardworking men, and I tell you, that's right. That's where you want to put your money, right? Minnesota-based with an all-new look, their clean new packaging features the Big D, and it's unmistakable on the shelves. Whether you go for a brick of soap, thick body wash, deodorant, hair care, beard care, right? That's right next to your mouth, or cologne, Duke Cannon will have you smelling your best. Look for the Big D at Target, Walmart, Amazon, or DukeCannon.com. Once you try it, you'll be hooked. Work harder, smell better. Duke Cannon. So with the Pohlads here, I appreciate that he seems to recognize baseball realities. You know, what you just read about how having an actual conversation about the quality of the team and whether they were World Series capable. Joe wasn't having those conversations, right? Because Death Cab and Bon Iver didn't have any lyrics that would really tap into World Series readiness here. So I agree with that. I wonder, do you think the moves would have looked different potentially with Tom Pohlad pulling the strings there? Do you think he had a voice at that time? Do you those are some of the questions here? Is was at what point was Tom actually doing the owner things without getting the public credit at some point? Like, at what point did one head kind of like shift into the place of the other head, like Monty Python style, and take over the conversation here? Like, I don't understand. That's what I want to know, and I'm curious. Is it gonna look different? Because Josh Bell signing doesn't look different enough to me there.
I think
but
the
is
fact
it
that they made
what
a
do you want to
signing,
see?
though, Dan, I think you're undervaluing the fact that they actually put a little bit of money down. I realize it's not Pete Alonso. I get that, but it's still something, Dan. You're not going into the season with Cody Clemens as your primary first baseman, and to me, that speaks volumes that they're at least trying to do something to make this team relevant.
I know, but it's still like they're both lefties, aren't they? I mean, like, at least we're not really even doing.
He's a switch hitter, actually, Josh Bell.
He is a switch hitter, but I believe if I saw the numbers, he's no good as a right-hander, right? So basically, we've not changed anything there, and that's part of a greater issue with what do you do with corner outfielders? They must be left-handed.
Well, we should note this too. Another article came out about Luke Keeschel getting time in the outfield, and I'm like, I don't understand this philosophy at all. So either you think he's that weak a second baseman, or you're planning to make a ton of moves, because right now, guys, you have 35 left-handed hitting outfielders on your 40-man roster, which is pretty impressive. I don't think that ratio can be topped, Dan.
No, that is a question, and that was kind of gave us hope that maybe they'd sign an infielder. It doesn't seem like they're going to. So I guess at this point we're looking at an infield, right? We've got Royce Lewis at third, we've got Brooks Lee at short, Luke Keeschel at second, and then like a Josh Bell Clemens, two-headed platoon at first. With Ryan Jeffers starting, you would think 100 games or so behind the plate. And then Alex Jackson taking
let's
the rest.
go with Allen. That's going to be the thing now. I'll make a sounder now, Dan.
Well, and then at some point here, and then the outfield's got to get settled, right? So you've got Wallner out there somewhere, Larnach, I guess. So maybe those are your two corners at this point, with Buxton in the middle, and then Wally Jenkins coming up at some point here. I think there's still room. You got Eddie Julian. I mean, there's still spots there, but the big question is the bullpen. Like, at some point, that's where I'm going to feel like, okay, Pulltabs, you've done something. You've gone out and replenished this, because right now we're looking at Topa, Sands, Funderburk, and Orsi, and that's it.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that there's no free agent pitchers left, because there certainly are. Like, there's a lot of relief pitchers left. But if you go by WAR over the last 2 seasons on MLB.com, and you scroll down, Dan, all the way down to your relief pitchers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the top 15 have signed already. So who that leaves right now as far as the top relief pitchers, and keep in mind, these guys are ancient. So Kirby Yates is available. He's 39, and he had a 1.8 WAR over the last 2 seasons. David Robertson is 41. He had a 1.7 WAR last 2 seasons. And then following him here is Pete Fairbanks. He's the one who's only 32. So I guess he's the young guy of the bunch with a 1.5 WAR. So if the Twins want to replenish the bullpen, not from inside their own systems, if they wanted to sign the top 4 guys right now, it looks like you got Kirby Yates, David Robertson, Pete Fairbanks, and Sean Newcomb. Those are the 4 guys you have to replenish your bullpen who haven't signed deals already. And honestly, after you get past that, it gets to be pretty slim pickings, Dan, as far as who's going to be actually helpful to you in the bullpen.
Yeah, this is like when you go out and pick out a Christmas tree and you like intentionally wait a few days so that because you don't want to have to pay for the really good ones, and then you say, well, I'm sorry, honey, the best one we've got, is this scrawny one that was only $15. Like that's what the poll ads I think are doing here, is they're going to say, well, do we really want to spend money? I mean, who needs a really nice Christmas tree when it's just going to stand in the corner for a month? Doesn't this dovetail with just what we think the Twins think about relief pitchers? This is what I've been saying all along, that they don't value relief pitchers. So why spend, no, they're not going to spend Edwin Diaz money, right? 3 years, $69 million, but clearly, they weren't going to spend millions here. Maybe not even multiple on some of these relief pitchers.
Yeah, you do wonder how much they're hanging their hat on Pete Mackey's ability to create a good bullpen out of the guys who are in-house, and maybe he does. The Twins have sort of been a breeding ground and sort of a reclamation project home for a lot of these major league relievers who are pretty decent, Dan, once they get done through the Twin system.
They're like a really good car repair shop. It's the one you got to go to them because they're going to sell you a good deal. That's what it feels like the Twins have embraced as a role, but while paying their starting pitchers actually some pretty decent money so that's what I see this team as.
So I do want to, before we get out of here, Dan, I do want to circle back to the new ownership segment here, because Craig Leopold coming in, I saw as a great thing, and I'm like, oh my goodness, here's a guy who just swung this crazy deal to bring Quinn Hughes in, and now the Wild have won 7 of 8, and it's super exciting, and the X is hopping every night, or whatever it's called now.
It's not the X, it's Grand Casino Arena, which is
sure anybody's going to call it that outside of the guys getting paid to do so. But so it was so funny because I sent that text in our Men for the Win chat, and Hogs was like, I hate this kind of. And I was like, I was so confused. And Hogs' rationale was the Pulltabs are going to get their stink all over him.
And then ruin the Wild too. Basically, that's like it's going to infiltrate into how they manage things. Well, the Quinn Hughes trade suggests otherwise. So far, we want the stink to go the other direction. I think in this situation, I like it. We talked about this too, I think, off the podcast. Baseball franchises are going to increase in value. LaValle Neal, I think, wrote a good article about this in the Star Tribune, where it seems like a very likely path here for the Pulltabs is that give them 4 years when, if things go as the owners want them to go, which, let's be honest, owners generally win in sports, right? They're the ones with even more money than the millionaire players. So I think we are steering towards a position where baseball teams' values increase, and Neal points to the Timberwolves as Exhibit A. So I think the Pulltabs will sell the team eventually here, but it's going to be a few years. My hope, though, is that maybe Hicks and Leopold kind of step up and they buy it. You know, we've heard also that this isn't a path to ownership necessarily for these guys, but why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you position yourselves to do that, or at least make some money and invest that back into the team? So I'm hopeful that maybe Craig Leopold is going to end up owning both of these teams.
It'd be great. It'd be a different world too, right? Like, I mean, I wonder, when you're a person who has that much money and you're working in the NHL structure where there's a strict salary cap and lots of confusion about how the contract extensions can work over the next couple of years, and then you move to baseball where it's just the freaking Wild West, Dan, where if you got a bundle of cash, you can spend it how you see fit. I do wonder if that would change how liberal he is with the cash, knowing that there's really the limit to what can be spent is you. Like, you're the only one making that decision. Yeah, you might have to pay some luxury taxes and things like that. But other than that, Dan, it's free game, however you want to do this.
Well, maybe it goes the other way, where now Leopold has been brought in with the assumption that there will be a salary cap down the road, and so he can teach the Twins how to operate within that wisely.
Oof.
Because he's got that experience. He's seen both sides of that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, he's seen the Suter and the Parisi deal maybe not work out so well at the back end. That's another conversation for people who know more than us about hockey. But that's what I wonder, too. There is just bringing him in, and it brings some local credibility, if nothing else. Somebody who knows the market. But I think, like, I don't know. Now that I look at it too, the worst owner of the major 4 men's pro sports in the Twin Cities, I mean, is by far the Pulltabs now.
Yeah.
With how everything else shakes out. And so I hope maybe this is a transition towards a better one.
Well, I mean, I think people have been pretty happy with the Wilfs also, right? Like with the Vikes. I mean,
absolutely.
So much of the Vikings' demise has very little to do with ownership. Like, nobody's complaining about the Wilfs and like the way that they're getting. And I forget the name of the GM they brought in, but so the question is, why are all the other Minnesota teams, as much as they are lacking in success, at least the fan base isn't upset at ownership? You know what I mean? Like, owners are doing what they can to win, and I think the problem is in baseball, it's too easy to look at the ownership and say, you're the reason we're not winning because you're unwilling to invest in the team. And I just don't think that many MLB fans feel that way compared to with how the Minnesota Twins feel about the Pulltabs.
And I think, too, if we polled Minnesota fans who own, and we just ask them who owns these teams, most people, the team whose owner would be named most frequently would be the Pulltabs. I think they just know that the Pulltabs own them for that very reason. I think baseball owners have this outsized role because of that, because you can spend big.
Yes.
We could name owners of other baseball teams. I couldn't name you an owner, anybody who owns any other National League hockey teams or NFL teams. Really, you know what I mean?
Well, you could name Jerry Jones.
I think that's... Well, I could name Jerry Jones, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, off the top of my head. So
I bet you could do more than you think.
Maybe I'm not
NFL,
very good at it.
Anyway, but owners in the NFL are a little bit more front-facing also than NHL owners, I would think.
Well, David, I think that about wraps up what we wanted to say here. Thank you, listeners, for listening. We do wish you a very happy holiday season here, and we hope that you're able to stay warm, see family, and hopefully we check in again with a Twins positive update here with more big signings to follow the Josh Bell splash.
Wouldn't that be something, Dan, if we were talking about a whole new set of relief pitchers? So one last plug here, folks, for the new show. You can find it on Patreon. Click the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you at least one episode a month for movie reviews. And honestly, it's just a great way to support Men for the Win. If you've been a listener for a while, it's a great way to get involved and to help Dan and I make this production the best it can be.
Indeed. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Men for the Win. You can find our Men for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, as we said, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.